to Cooper Talk.
Welcome to Cooper Talk. I'm your host, Steve Cooper, and remember, I'm only as hip as my guest. And I got to tell you something, people. The gentleman on my show today has a brand new album called All of the Above, and I was just telling him how I hate the gym. I hate it, but my wife makes me go. So I went on the treadmill, and I put it on, and I listened to it, and it's great. It's got a different fusion. It's got all different sounds. And this gentleman, you know, it occurred to me, I saw him when he was with Journey, play at the Spectrum in Philadelphia in May of 1982, and that's the year I graduated high school. And then I saw him again in October of 1986, and that was the year after I graduated college. So he has played bass on so many songs that were in my formative years, and now he has a new album, and my guest is Ross Valory. How you doing, Ross?
I'm doing great. Quiet on the set, people. Settle, people. Work with me. Now mingle.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, it's good to be here. Speaking of Jim and being motivated by the music, a lot of the music is sort of locomotive. It's driving in many cases, and it's good for driving and good for treadmills. Very good.
But you know, it also, and this may, you probably, well, you wrote it, so you know this, but it also has a, even when it's pumping, it has a feeling of serenity. It has a relaxing. It's not like a go like pump. And I don't know if you meant to do that when you wrote it, but it is. It's like it's up, and then but it's a peaceful up.
Yes, yeah, that's very insightful, Steve. Wild Kingdom is probably a good example. It has a very consistent driving underlying Latin rhythm to it between Carl Perazzo on percussion and Walfredo Reyes on drums. But it is so consistent. It's moving a million miles an hour, but it's also standing still. To me, it kind of reminds me of Indian music, which is deeply driving at a certain emotional level, but it's so consistent that movement is one thing and serenity is another. That's very insightful.
Now, tell me about the title, All of the Above. I know you went into it on your Twitter page. There's a few reasons why it's All of the Above, but tell me, I want to hear from you. What's the title? Where's the title from?
Originally, I had this idea for the artwork, which, by the way, is done so masterfully by Prairie Prince. That's a whole other history to get into. But the original idea was a multiple choice graphics with blended into matting and background art. But it would say Ross Valory, ? A, yes. B, no. C, maybe. D, all of the above. Now, you would see the multiple choice stuff right there in front of you, but what would be highlighted at a distance would be Ross Valory, all of the above. But what does it mean? Primarily, it means there is a vast variety of styles in the various songs on the album. It's anything goes, anything and everything. You could say it's a buffet. You could say it's a smorgasbord, but the idea is I'm just simply bringing forward all this material that has been unheard in a matter of years and completing it, I think, with a great amount of success and sharing it with the world. So all of the above means there's variety here. It's an adventure. It's not one particular genre, so to speak. In fact, my genre is no genre. That could be a bold, definitely unconventional approach, but we're having fun with playlists, I'll tell you that much. The second meaning to all of the above has to do with, not with a big fanfare and patting my own back, but it's really the first time that I've recorded fretless bass as well as others. It's the first time I've recorded guitar, as in windmill, because I wrote it on guitar, so I recorded on guitar. And as I played keyboard synthesizer on Wild Kingdom, which I wrote on the synthesizer. In particular, a calliope sound, a merry-go-round circus organ kind of sound. Also, all of the above definitely describes the long list of musicians that participated in these songs, and how they were selected particularly for the kind of music that they are best suited. So if I had, two different songs, like Tomland is sort of like a power trio with keyboards. I selected Prairie Prince and Miles Shawn for that because that's a style that they wouldn't even have to think about. They just practically start playing. The arrangements and the parts a little more specific than that, but I picked people whose style matches the song. For the Latin and the Latin fusion, the Latin jazz pieces like Wild Kingdom, Windmill, Incident in Nishabor, I had involved at a very deep level Carl Prazzo from Santana, master percussionist. He helped build the foundation of, in many cases, traditional Latin rhythms for those 3 or 4 songs. And we brought in Latin-oriented drummers for those songs as well. So all of the above means the variety of musicians that suit the variety of the songs.
Now, as I was listening to it, and you look at albums, and I grew up at the age where, you bought an album and you looked at all the songs. When you're writing a song that is instrumental, how do you come up with a title? Because I know how, like, when there's a chorus, you come up with a title, no problem, like, oh, this is the... But how do you come up with, like how did you come up with Wild Kingdom?
Okay, all right. And this is a question that was asked of me, and this is a unique question, but it's a good one that was just asked by an interviewer yesterday. Wild Kingdom. Okay, here you go. You got this melody. It's kind of, jungly, and you certainly remember Mutual of Omaha presents Marlon Perkins' Wild Kingdom. Okay, and they have cheesy little theme with marimbas and stuff. I don't know how, I can't even remember how it goes, but when I was always going on my keyboard, I'm going, Marlon Perkins lives. Okay, so there's some humor behind it. It's an ode to Marlon Perkins' Wild Kingdom, but the title does kind of suit the music. It's an adventure, and I'm not sure if you've been to my official YouTube channel and seen the accompanying music video.
Yes.
Oh my, I am so happy to be not only involved with Prairie Prince, who's former Tubes and former Journey member and a long career in artistry. He's doing all my artwork for the visuals that you're seeing. His longtime associate and fellow artist and co-creator of the Tubes, Michael Cotton, is doing the music videos for all of the songs on the album. And I am so happy. He's so intuitive. In some cases, he comes up with a basic idea, and we work together to develop it as it may relate to the title. So I'm looping back how the title comes in. And what I told him about Wild Kingdom, it has to do with your first question. This is a driving rhythm, but it's not intimidating. It's like a fast car going down a straight highway in the desert, or a train. And he took the train idea, the chugga chugga, through the jungle and the adventure the little girl has in seeing familiar and unfamiliar creatures. So that's one example of what to do with the title. Tomland is probably more obscure as a title. Are you familiar with the song and the video?
Well, the video, yeah, in the video, there's shoes, there's flying shoes.
Yes.
And I was wondering, and it looks like to me, and just when I thought it looking at the video, it was like a new beginning, an awakening to me. Just as I watched it, that's what I got from it. I may be wrong because you were involved in the video, but that's what I got. As it had the vast sandscapes, and it had, as I said, you see the shoes, and then you walking forward, and that's what I got from it. I may be wrong, but that's what I got. Like
but you're not wrong. In fact, that's a good representation. It's a journey. It's a path through the country. In this case, through the desert. And it's my first release of my music for the first time across my entire former career. So it is a new beginning, and Michael chose to represent me as the character in it. What may be obscure about it, the title of the song is Tomland, and you may recall that it's dedicated to memory of Tom Size, who was very much instrumental in encouraging me to begin my solo project a matter of years ago, and he passed away. He was a fine audio engineer, and the name of his company, his engineering company, was Tomland. So the meaning of the title is a little obscure, but the visuals give a very good representation of the music. What I said to Michael to begin with, I said, the camera or the person, the viewer, is walking along a country road with a variety of scenery. And for the heavier parts in the song, maybe clouds form and there's a rainstorm, thunder and lightning, but it subsides and the song returns to the relative serenity at the end. And that's what he did. He took a country road and did the desert scape, which I was just amazed by.
It must be amazing for you that when you see these videos, and even Windmill has a very Latin feel and the look. But you think about it, because you were someone who, when you're with Journey, were with MTV when videos were so big and such a production. And it must be amazing for you to sit there and go, wow, now it's done like AI and it's so much easier. I mean, what is that like for you? Because you were in the videos back, when videos were changed the world, changed the music for people my age.
Right. Well, there's several ways to answer that. Journey's first videos were pretty much not at the forefront, but right there at the edge of that new market, and it was all performance oriented. And I had choices as I was seeking out videography for my music. I wasn't really interested in the performance and where you get the players and you got a sound stage and you got lights and smoke and you lip sync and you have a parallel storyline. I wasn't interested. I was interested in animation, illustration in general. And the thing about AI, it makes it simpler, affordable, according to a production budget. But it's definitely an AI tool and an AI program that's used for my videos. But Michael does things differently. Normally, what you see with AI music videos is the videographer will input all the information, all the stuff he wants to see and how he wants to see it, and then he pushes the button, and there you go. Well, Michael does it differently. He inputs the information, he pushes the button, but then he goes in and illustrates. He takes it and as well in most cases with my input on this. So he calls it illustrating. Rather than just AI program. He's using it as a tool rather than letting it do the work. He uses what it presents and he manipulates that within the time frame.
Okay, where's Neshabar? That's my favorite song on the album. Incident, that's my favorite song.
Using and what I found on Google to Michael yesterday, and this is what it says. It says, as Carlos Santana stated, Neshabur is where the army of Toussaint Louverture, who was a black revolutionary, defeated Napoleon in Haiti. So that's what it's about. I think by writing songs like Incident and Ishabor and Toussaint L'Ouverture, we feel that we were our own kind of revolutionary. And Albert Cinquento, who co-wrote that with him and formed the band Abraxas, helped put it together. In fact, Napoleon was never in Haiti. And there was, it's just very confusing historically, but it's just how information can morph and become less accurate. So there's a Nishabur in somewhere in Morocco, or something similarly of similar spelling in Iran. So it's all very confusing. Now, Michael has produced to date the 3 music videos for the 3 songs I released. He's actually doing that for all of the songs, all of them. So probably sometime by October, the viewers will have seen every song visualized. And he's just very intuitive. He loves the music. That helps. You can always contract a good artist to do things, but when they actually have a passion for what they're working with, it really helps, Steve.
Now, what you said? Someone helped you. Tom helped you start this project, but what made you do this? What pushed you? I mean, people can say to you, Ross, I know so long you've been writing, and you wrote back in the day for Journey somewhat, and what made you finally sit there and go, I'm doing this? You know, I mean, you're a member of the Hall of Fame. You've toured the world. You've done so much. Was there a defining moment that said you finally said you sat down and you said, damn it, I'm getting this done?
Yeah, I can bring you to that direct answer. But the backstory, it goes first of all back to my childhood in the really vast and varied amount of musical influences that I experienced in the home with the family. There was such a variety of influences, and I maintain that as to what I listen to even on a daily basis. And then there was the San Francisco music phenomenon of the 60s and maybe early 70s that I was a part of. It was experimental. Anything and everything goes, and if you can gain an audience, then you can gain some prominence. I was in a band called Frumious Bandersnatch, which was a substantial second line band, which means you could open for a headliner or be placed before them in a bill that involved more than 2 bands. We had the same status as other bands like Santana Blues Band. Yes, there was a Santana Blues Band before all of that, so the culture of music, it wasn't necessarily having to stick to top 40 and songs that were 3.5 to 4 minutes long. And Frumious did well in that musical culture. It was experimental. And early Journey, if you're old enough to remember, the first 3 albums represent a completely different kind of music, or vastly different than what Journey became popular for. And so to answer your question, in about 2012, I was coming to this point that I was thinking, well, why should I wait till I retire to take up completing all this material that's stacked up for decades? And I began overlapping my activities. In between Journey tours, I built and put together a reasonably adequate studio, and I found a young and capable engineer, Jacob Stowe, and at the same time I hooked up with Eric Levy. The 3 of us, that's the core team. Eric Levy being from Garage Mahal, and currently now for quite some time, Night Ranger. Eric Levy plays keyboards and has a fine ear for my material. So the 3 of us put together this team to produce the music. And a lot of people think, okay, this album's out. This is the opus. This is Ross finally showing his wares. This is all the other music in his life. And some people may think, well, that's it. Actually, it's not it, Steve. For the last 3 years or so, since the lockdown, I have continued to arrange and record and produce new material. It's an ongoing process. But even more direct answer to your question, it's like, gee, this stuff has been sitting around for years and I haven't gotten around to it, and I'm still inspired by it. Those ideas, those songs still roll around in my head. Why not complete them? So my effort here is overall, it's not about carving out a new career. It's about finishing what I started. So in having completed this album, I can say I've already succeeded. And the next effort is just to have the opportunity to get on the internet and have the opportunity for people to hear it. So thus I'm making noise on your podcast.
Well,
hello, people.
There you go.
To me, succeeded. Not only did I complete this material, I completed an album worth of material, and it's being released to the internet, and that's all I expect.
Well, when did you start writing music? As a child? I mean, what was your process? So I mean, go back. I know you started by playing the clarinet, I believe, and the bass clarinet. Am I right? When you were younger?
Well, but voice and piano, because my mother was musical, so she taught me how to play piano. And singing, it's a family genetic thing. Singing was a natural thing. I can't remember when I began singing, but I've been singing all my life. So the environment was at home with voice and piano, and she showed me how to play ukulele. And I went from there to a baritone ukulele and then a Spanish classical guitar. And to answer your question, I think when I was 9 years old, it hasn't made it to the plate yet. And clarinet was what I developed in school. When I was in third grade, I'd been in the choirs, church choirs, school choirs, and all that. But I wanted to play drums in the school band, but the positions were full, and the director knew I was musical, so he goes, I need clarinet players. So I played clarinet for 10 years. But I moved, as soon as I got to middle school or junior high school, I moved to bass clarinet. You don't have to audition, every few months. There's two guys that play the same part. They get to hang out with the tubas, the E-flat horns, the bari sax, and the bassoons, and the trombones. You get to honk out some big notes, and that was fun. But, I mean, aside from the fun, I mean, it was a really good music department for the school district there. They had good instruments and good directors and some fine musicians. In fact, I played in the symphonic band in middle school and high school with the likes of Steve Touré, famous trombonist. Okay, so anyhow, it was a great experience being part of that and being part of a cappella choirs and the Oakland Men's Chorus for 2 years. So that was the background of my training in symphonic and choral work. And I was in high school in my sophomore year. Every day I would come home and listen to Dave Brubeck Take 5. Okay, you got me? Okay, that's what I was listening to at the time. And in that same time period, some guy that just moved into town from Seattle comes up to me at PE and says, hey, I'm starting a rock band with some of your friends. I know you play clarinet. I know you play guitar at home. Why don't you get your mom to go down to the local music store with you, rent a bass, rent an amp. I'll show you the parts. It's easy. You play guitar, you can play bass. We'll make some change and have some fun. So I went from Rondo a la Turk to Louie Louie in a matter of weeks. Louie Louie and Gloria and Land of a Thousand Dances. And so that's where that happened. And of course, I was still schooling and still preparing for college prep as a scientist or a doctor or something. But things went definitely in a different direction musically with the San Francisco music scene, and Frumious Bandersnatch, and then Steve Miller.
How did you get involved? How did you get involved with the Steve Miller Band? I mean, because people now don't understand. It's not like you can just go on the internet and find something that says, "Hey, we're looking for someone," or post on Facebook. It wasn't. I mean, there was papers, but you still had to go out and buy the paper. How did you get interviewed? How did you get involved with Steve Miller?
Well, first of all, Frumious Bandersnatch was a very talented band, very talented musicians. Out of the five of us, four of us also sang, including the drummer, Jack King, and the rhythm guitarist and lead vocalist for Frumious Bandersnatch. Ended up joining Steve Miller's band as a singing bassist. Okay. And then when Steve wanted to expand and Bobby Winkleman, that new member, moved to rhythm guitar and vocals, he invited me and Jack King, the singing drummer, to join the Steve Miller Band. So Steve Miller Band was always the band that Frumious liked the most. In fact, we had gotten to perform with them. So there was kind of a shoe-in by way of a former band member that had joined Steve Miller and brought me into that.
So then
And I was with Steve in those in-between years. It was after the Steve Miller Blues Band, and it becomes Steve Miller Band, but he was still obligated to Mercury Records and had one more album to do. So he decided to get very experimental with it and end his relationship with them. And we recorded an album called Rock Love, which has some interesting stuff on it, including The Gangster. But it was previous to Steve's big surge with the Joker and all that. It was the in-between years.
So then how does Journey come about? Because, and you're so funny, the band has had such a, as I said, for me, like people my age, I just turned 60. Their music was such a big part of ours, the later music. But how did the early band, how did you guys get started?
Okay, here's the backstory. When I was in that little high school band that I got talked into, there was a guy I met. He was part of another band. He got tired of being a musician. He just wanted to learn everything else about the music business, equipment, transportation, management, and all that stuff. And he started helping out our little rock band. His name was Herbie Herbert. Okay. And Herbie quickly developed his skills in everything non-musical in the music business. And he was a co-manager of Frumious Bandersnatch. And then when Frumious subsided, I went to work with Steve Miller, and Herbie went to work with Santana. He was providing a sound system for them and ended up co-managing them before their first dissolution. And in the process, he had met and began working with Neil Schon and Greg Raleigh, who were in Santana at that time. Well, about the time I left Steve Miller, Herbie and Greg Raleigh and Neil Schon left Santana. All right. And I had been working in the meantime over the years with a fine writer and guitarist named George Tickner. So it was by Herbie's effort that he put myself, George Tickner, together with Greg Raleigh and Neil Schon, and brought in Prairie Prince, who was at the time a budding artist and a member of the Tubes. And that began in the summer of 1972. What most people notice is that the first record, which included Ainsley Dunbar instead of Prairie, who could not continue with the band, that came out in 1975 on Columbia. But the band had actually been in existence since the summer of 72 and had even gone out and played shows in Chicago and Detroit before the album came out. So that's how it happened. Herbie's idea to begin with is put these fine musicians together and they could be the local wrecking crew, because so many artists were coming in to record and to write in the San Francisco environment, and this band could back up anybody. But we decided, and we were playing very experimental music, which is reflected in the first album, at least. It quickly developed, hey, let's form our own band, and that's what it became.
Well, how'd you come up with the name
So,
Journey?
It was a radio contest among the big rock stations in the Bay Area, and people came up with the most stupid names like Brainwave and whatever. And all the submissions to the 2 or 3 radio stations sucked. So there was a member of our staff, John Villanueva. He came up with the name, okay? But we announced on the radio, Toby Pratt of San Jose has come up with the name, and he gets the golden key to any of our shows. Well, John Villanueva didn't need a golden key. He was on the staff, but that's how that happened. Rather than Brainwave, it was Journey.
It would have been different at Brainwave. Yeah, I know. It would have changed everything.
Yeah, it would have changed everything.
So you earlier said, the first 3 albums of Journey were more experimental, and then you changed. Then the people of Journey know. What happened? I know Steve came in, but how did that transition happen?
Here's how it happened. And the first 3 albums with Columbia, with that more experimental group, sold gold. And gold in those days was not $500,000 worth. It was 500,000 albums. And that was not too shabby, Steve. However, the record company's gone, that's okay. But, we really want something more substantial that we can really promote. So there was a conscious, concerted effort to approach popular music, more vocally oriented music, and less instrumentally emphasized. And so in that process, the band took vocal lessons together, which I didn't need, but we did vocal lessons, and we engaged the search for singers. And Steve Perry arrived in 1978. And so that was the cap on what the configuration of the band and the styles and the writing. That was the cap. That was the beginning of Journey's success with Lights in the City and Wheel in the Sky. And then with the additional arrival of Jonathan Cain in 1980-81, you get the Escape album. So for the most part, that's the Magic 5. Neil.
Now you have, I was going to say, you have the writing credit on Any Time and Just the Same Way. How was the writing process for them back then?
Well, my participation was more minimal for those, and it was mostly about arrangement and some of the lyrical ideas. But again, lesser so. I was a lesser writer, and I was very fortunate to get the credits for it. But where my writing influence is more pertinent to what's all of the above all about is the early experimental music. In the first 3 albums, I was much more of a participational level as a writer. And that relates to all of the above in that respect. Anything goes, right? There was another occasion. It was really a great opportunity, and you may not know about this, but you can find it. It used to be a Japanese import. Journey had this opportunity in 1979 with Steve Smith, Neil Schon, Greg Raleigh, Steve Perry, and myself to go to Japan at the invitation of Sony Records and record in their studio there a soundtrack, create a soundtrack for a movie that they were cooperating with Toho Films to release. Nothing happened with the film, and nothing happened with that in terms of any notable success, but we had the freedom to just open up our influences and not be considering popular music. This was like a soundtrack. So for me, that was another opportunity to contribute my creativity to compositions. And I've got 2 songs on that album that are fundamentally I generated. So You have experimental Frumius, you have early experimental Journey, and then you have the Journey soundtrack. And that's how it relates to all of the above.
Well,
I'm bringing all of my influences. So what you end up with my album, All of the Above, there's no necessarily any pure styles there. I'm an impressionist. I'm as much of the painter as I am a musician in this case. And it's not about featuring the bass. The way the songs have been arranged and recorded, it's what does the composition need? What does the song need? Sometimes it's just an accompanying bass part. It's not about featuring me. So this whole presentation here, it's not about me or even me as a bass player. It's about these songs that I have passion for, and I'd like to think that they've been presented well and completed, and people are enjoying them. Much to my pleasure, including you.
How did you choose Lowrider? Because once again, it's a different opening. It's scored differently.
All right. On the subject of cover tunes, there's always songs that I've wanted to do. I thought they were cool, and they weren't as popular, as prominent in Santana's repertoire, like Incident Nishabur. I always thought that was cool. And so that's obviously what I came up with, and I made an arrangement so that as a semi-medley, it would go into Horace Silver's Señor Blue, which is very similar in rhythm and style. Things like that. And there's other cover songs that I'm working on right now by other artists. But Lowrider, we had just completed Incident and whatever, and I'm sitting around with some of the other musicians that I did the basic with, Vernon Black and Eric Levy, etc. And I said, there's this other tune that'd be a lot of fun. Always thought about that one, Lowrider. And everybody goes, well, let's do it. I said, well, okay. So I figured, okay, who do I need for that song? My purpose, my agenda is choose the right musicians for the right song. And I said, I'll get a hold of Greg Orico from Sly and the Family Stone. He's got that thrashy, loose, soulful drum style. That'd be perfect for this song. And I know Les Stroud, Survivor Man, plays a mean harp. He happens to be coming through town. I'll pick him up at the airport, put him up, bring him to the studio, take him back to the airport. So we got all the harp parts. We had Vernon Black on guitar. And we brought in Mark Russo for the overdubs. But it was a fluke, and it happened really quickly. Some songs take a while to record and develop. Lowrider, hey, it's a cover. Well, we did a little different. It's significantly longer, and the choruses, the horn chorus reprieves are longer. They double up. And, of course, who sang it? Everybody thinks I sang it. I could have, but I have a voice like that, but it's not consistent. In fact, today, it's not that way. But I said, I could sing this, but I know somebody who could sing it anytime, any place, 24/7. I brought in Josh Ramos, who's known as a very fine guitarist and was the guitarist with The Storm, the band I had with Greg Raleigh. And I brought him in to sing it. And I coached him. I directed him to sing it the way I would sing it. And so it's not me. It's okay. I don't care. He brought what the song needed, and I'm really happy. So it was a fluke, total fluke. And it just, boom, it happened. And it is definitely the outlier, Steve. It is so far different than the rest of the songs. Like, okay, what are we going to do with that? Well, I don't know. It's a buffet. Okay, you want something spicy? Go over here. Have some Lowrider.
It is, okay? and it's but it's when you hear it, you go, "Wait, is that low?" I mean, just read it, but yeah, it is different, but it fits. Now, another thing is, as we said,
how do you fit all those songs together? But go ahead, Steve.
Well, no, as I said, we've talked about the album being upbeat, but then your final song, and of course, it comes in the title, no one wins the war. Sort of sullen from the rest of the album. Was that purpose? I mean, it's not. It's a good song, but it's not like, as I said earlier, treadmill. You're on a treadmill, and then no one you do your cool down on that. So how did you piece that in?
Well, the nature of the song is uncertain in many respects. It's plaintive, even though it does resolve, but it's a plaintive, uncertain song. But it also has this sort of, I don't know, benediction, the last prayer at a service kind of thing. It's a closer. It's tuck the kids in, say goodnight. The title just reflects, I think, personal struggle, and the song kind of represents a conversation. One person is questioning life and questioning fate, and the other person brings resolve to it. So it's conversational. No one wins the war. It's like when people fight at any level and have conflicts, who really wins when they go to fisticuffs? Nobody, really. Unnecessary. So that's the meaning of the title, and how the song is placed. Well, it's a closer. It's a benediction. Okay, happy trails. Till next time.
All right. Now, this album, you're very proud of this album, and it is a highlight, and I enjoy it. What are, when you were in Journey, what were some of your highlights? When you look back at your time in Journey, what were some of the highlights of your career? Because this is a highlight, because it's something you've been working at for a long time, and you finally did it. So I would walk away going, oh, this is great. But what were some of your highlights with Journey?
I think one thing that really sticks out, and it's the towards the beginning, the band and the organization in general was so determined and so confident that we actually really knew this is going to work. We just keep going. We keep doing what we do as well as we do, and with the management team, this is going to work. But there's nothing like driving down the highway with the FM radio on, and all of a sudden your song, Lights in the City, comes on the radio. It's like, oh, wow. I mean, that's a highlight in itself, and it sort of bespeaks everything that followed in terms of continued and greater success and popularity. The Escape recording and the Escape tours, there were one tour across 2 years and 2 legs. That was the phenomenal big wave. What a rush that was. I mean, it was just nuts. I mean, getting in a limousine at Joe Louis Arena in Detroit and trying to get the car out the gate while you're surrounded by people banging on the hood and slapping the windows. It's like, what the hell's going on here? Well, you signed up for this? Okay. You got to be careful what you wish for. So, I mean, that was a big rush. And there's so many countless exciting occasions, especially at big stadium shows. You walk out on the stage at night, and the stage is so big you can't see the other end. You got plenty of room to wander around, and it's so deep. And you walk out there, and there are there's tens of thousands of people at night, and they've all got their lighters, and they've all got them lit up, and they're swaying back and forth to the strains of Open Arms or Faithfully. And then just the excitement, the screams, the yells, the roar of 80,000 people, and it's focused on you and your bandmates. What a rush.
Sure. You know what I just remembered, and I forgot this. I mentioned when I saw you at the Spectrum, but I saw you, oh God, was it 80? You were at JFK Stadium in Philadelphia. It was George Thorogood, Journey, and the Stones. And it was such a hot day. And we got there at like 7 a.m. And it was so funny because as
stadium it was RFK.
Yeah, RFK. No, JFK. JFK Stadium in Philly.
Yeah. That was a Bill Graham move. Bill Graham's always known to be eclectic and you know, unconventional. And he decided to put us in the middle there. And we did Buffalo too. I can't remember the stadium there, but we did those two shows with the Stones in between. We call it Journey Sandwich. It did not work. It did not work. In fact, I don't know if it was at your show or the Buffalo show. We got up there and I think we did one song, and then Perry goes, "Want to thank you all so much for, Separate Ways being #1 hit," or whatever it was. And they started throwing shit. It's like, who are you? We're not here to see you. They started throwing shit, and we actually ended our set a little early.
You were good in Philly, though. We liked you in Philly.
Well, then, yes, good. But generally, the crowd there did not buy tickets for this middle act that is nothing like the Rolling Stones. So, we got paid, and you enjoyed it. That's all that's important. Steve liked it. Thank you. Thank you, Bill.
Looking back,
I got to get going.
What's that?
I'm running over now.
Okay.
I'm running overtime. I got an interview, but you've got the essentials. You've got a lot recorded there, and once again, you know where to find me. If you want to talk again sometime,
okay.
You know where to go.
Well, hey, do me a favor. Pose for a picture real quick. Smile for the camera.
Wait.
Now give me a normal one. Okay, I want to thank you for coming on, Ross. This has been great. People, go get Ross's album.
Sure, but I got another interview in about 5 minutes. So
you got it.
Break time. Go pee. Get some coffee. Do another one.
Right,
Thanks, Steve. Take care.
Hey, have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.